Okay. That.
Hey, Lynette.
Hi there. How are you, Jen?
Good. How you doing?
What a day. We pay for our holiday weekends, don't we?
Yeah, this is going to be a busy week.
Oh, I came back in after I took Friday off, just mental health. Came back in, there had to be over 50 emails in my inbox.
Oh my gosh.
It's like, what did you people do? Let's all pound on her. One of the things that Cora Lou mentioned to me yesterday at the Memorial Day ceremony was that she is uncertain about how to participate in public meetings. She asked when the parks were meeting. I said, same as they always do. Well, how do we can't go to the meetings. And I thought, where have you been? She wants a big.
Yeah. Okay. I'll talk to her.
Yeah. I said it's on the agenda. Every single agenda that goes out has instructions on how to do this. Well, what if I don't have a computer? And I thought, but you do.
Yeah.
I know you do.
I can talk to her tomorrow and make sure she understands because they're having a Board of Adjustment meeting tomorrow.
Okay.
I'm just going to try to get this set up here for a minute.
Sure, I'll leave you to your work. Mhm. Okay, that's not what I want. All right.
Okay, so it looks like we got everything going, so we are live
Okay.
on the air. Yeah, just so you know.
Am I missing?
Here I can block out the rest of my world.
Jennifer said we're already live, so just be aware.
We're not recording or anything, right?
Yes, we are.
She's got it set up. Last meeting, there were some difficulties in getting things all set up, so she's doing it early,
Got it. Got it.
just so we don't
Let's get a
have.
glass of water then while we have the time. I'll be right back.
Sure.
Thank you.
So it looks like Mary is here, but she just doesn't have video, but she has audio.
Well, Mary has video. I don't know why it's not going
Oh.
on.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah, I can see me. That's okay. This way I can make faces.
Yay.
Okay, I won't make faces.
Let's see what happens when I try to log in.
How's your addition coming along?
It's coming along. Someday maybe we could have people over to be in it when it's done, but not, till next year probably.
Is there an extra charge for COVID proofing or?
Yes, there's going to be a mister, like
Right,
going down
yes.
to Arizona. Yeah, and it's
Right.
very state of the art.
Why does everybody smell like chlorine?
That's right.
There's no pool.
That's right. I think for some reason I feel as if I ought to wear my swim trunks. That's cool though. That's exciting. At least you got something to look forward to. That's great.
Yeah, extra space someday. Someday for the next pandemic.
Right, exactly. You'll have more rooms to visit.
That's right. We can have a bigger quarantine party or whatever.
So I guess what was it? I got a text from Sharon Racino this morning about some trash that had been left out overnight, and I texted Kent, and Kent was on it.
Like flies on.
I guess they were on their way. So I really think that it would be a good idea to get an old Smokey the Bear outfit and just walk around streets of Georgetown, handing out pamphlets and stuff like that. And I think people would comply a lot, a lot more if if a big stuffed animal gave a pamphlet rather than,
I think they would call in another bear sighting, so.
Yes.
well, we'd have to alert Joe.
That's what Parker is for, isn't he supposed
really.
to go around and, he could have them in like a Saint Bernard and put them in the barrel the whiskey barrel under his neck.
These dogs are not educational. You cannot ask them questions. So
We could put a little,
Q&A box on them or something.
yeah. Or we could put a bear mask on him so he looks like a bear.
Right. That'd be great. Even Colbert to give out the pamphlets.
Ooh, there you go. Boy, you're going to be on it tonight, aren't you, Rob?
Keep in mind, we are live.
That's right. I haven't sworn.
No, I didn't say you did. Just a reminder.
Jerry,
Howdy,
how are
Hey,
you?
Jerry.
I'm good. I'm good. Let's see, I need to start video. Sorry, let me do that. There we are.
There you are.
I hear a dog.
Yeah, that's
Not my
mine.
dog.
I'll mute when we're really
That's okay.
meeting. No, that's not okay. But thanks.
We've still got scads of time. Somebody could still get stuck in traffic and still make it on time.
Are we expecting everyone tonight? Yes?
Yeah, as far as I know, yeah.
Okay.
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 Rob, you don't get extra points for being early.
Well, since I was a no-show last time, I thought at least that'd be one of the faces that everybody sees when they pull up. It couldn't be Kelsey or Kent, so.
I wasn't gonna say that.
Lynette, I couldn't beat Lynette, and so I was, yeah. For some reason, I want to call you Kelsey as if it was your first name.
That's all right.
I'm very sorry.
It's okay.
I know a lot of Kelseys.
I know there are a lot of them. Lots. So it's all right.
Has
Yeah.
anybody else, I guess, imagine, Jerry, you've seen a lot of influx into Evergreen from down in Denver and those places?
You're muted.
Muted,
Jerry, you're muted.
There's a lot of people on the trails.
right?
A lot of people, a lot of dogs, mixing it up with the elk because it's calving season.
Yeesh.
And so there's a lot going on out there.
Right.
But everybody seems to be getting along, the elk, the people, the dogs. So that's good.
Good. No, everybody who has never seen elk, I always tell them to go to Evergreen.
I'm telling you, for whatever reason, and the Evergreen elk they're not impressed by people or dogs.
Right.
My dog will bark at them and they basically flip her off, because they're not hunted up here and they're a lot bigger than she is.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean,
So they kind of have attitude,
to watch one of them step over a fence that no dog could get over it.
Yeah.
A dog,
There's a crosswalk down by the library where
Right.
there's if you know where that is, and
Yeah.
there's a light there, and there happen to be willow bushes on either side, and the elk have figured out that every now and again the traffic stops, and that's a good time to cross.
Right.
And so if you're from out of town, can you imagine you're driving through Evergreen, you stop at a stoplight or a pedestrian crossing, and all of a sudden, 5 elk go clop, clop, clop. It just must really freak people out.
Well, You know, I gotta believe that gives them a little slice of Colorado.
Yeah, it's really, I love that aspect of being here. I really do.
No, that that's the kind of the mystique of Evergreen is to, you know, sorry I was late. It was an elk jam.
Yeah, yeah, and people are pretty cool about not being impatient, which I really notice and appreciate. You know, you don't hear a lot of honking of horns. Just wait until they've crossed the road. It's no
Oh,
big
yeah.
deal.
Well,
And-
and you know, back east, when somebody flashed their lights, that meant that there was a cop, you know, a speed trap.
Yeah,
Here it means, you know, there's an elk around the corner. Don't hit it.
yeah.
Different cultures.
Yep, exactly.
Well, 3 minutes.
Okay.
I think we're almost all here.
This is Tim, I'm on.
Hi there, Tim.
Hi.
We still need John and Keith.
May Sims.
Yes,
It's Mary. You spell your name with an R.
it says May.
Yes.
It
Well, that's
does.
how I was set up, I guess.
Maybe. Maybe Sims.
We have 2 more minutes.
Some water.
There's John. And then he disappeared. There he is.
I just sent Keith the link, so.
Okay.
Okay.
Mary, I don't know if you know this, but your husband is
Me,
your
I
husband's on.
I think he wants to make a comment, or he just wants to listen. He doesn't have to be
And he'll
allowed
be
in as
able-
a panelist.
He can't hide. His name is on the square. So
I promoted him just in case. I can, I'm gonna promote. I guess we can ask them if they're gonna wanna talk, like Craig or Veronica.
It would make sense, because then you can always mute them after the audience part is done, right?
I'll just promote them now
Okay.
and then,
It's kind of like a school thing, you get promoted. Wow, look at all these people.
Suddenly.
Well, it's nice for us to know who's in the audience, because otherwise we can't see who's
Sure.
there. Lurking
Yeah.
in the shadows.
there's Mary.
I'm gone.
Dookie dookie. Okay, I'm mute.
Why does it say May Sims instead of Mary?
Let's see, I can change it. Let's see, let me find you. Oh, May, I see it.
There's Keith. Okay.
hi.
Okay.
So. And Paul is back. And I presume Kent's coming right back. There he is. Okay. It is 6:01 p.m. on May 26, 2020, and I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Board of Selectmen to order. At this time, if we could all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag
of
of
the
the
United
United
States
States
of
of
America and to the
And
republic
to the
for
republic
which it
for which it
stands,
stands,
one
one
nation,
nation,
one nation,
under God,
under God,
indivisible, with
indivisible,
liberty
with
and justice
liberty
for
and
all.
justice for all.
I will now call roll. I am Lynette Kelsey, Police Judge. Rob Connell,
Here.
Keith Holmes,
Here.
John Jennings,
Here.
Paul Hingen,
Here.
Mary Smith,
Here,
and Tim Allen.
here.
We have a full house. That's wonderful. Agenda approval. Did anybody have anything they wanted to add to the agenda? Or delete? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda as presented. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Audience business. Members of the audience have 5 minutes to present any matter of interest not already on the agenda. Is anybody here for audience business? Okay,
Good evening. Yes, I'd like to just make a few comments.
for the record, could you identify yourself and where you live, please?
Yes, I am Les Mays, and this is my wife, Veronica Mays. We live at 605 Brownell.
Go ahead then.
And so we would like to plead to you all in regard to some occurrences at our residence. We have been subject to a major project in front of our house that has ultimately led to some damages to the house internally and externally based on the damage to the sewer line and the project on the street. And so we are discussing with you guys how to repair some of those damages. And so if you guys are aware at all, basically we've had some damage to the sewer line that basically backed up into the house. We had we've been dealing with it for a while now. Obviously, you guys are aware the project started back in August. Now we've had certain issues with egress and ingress, but ultimately lately we've had issues with the drainage in our house. And so what ultimately happened is we had a blockage in the line, which caused backage into the crawl space, and we've had to deal with the cleanup with that, as well as not being able to have running water or drainage of that water, which has led to which probably in normal circumstances we would ask friends to stay at their residence and help with showering, but as is in the middle of a pandemic, where I am actually having to treat people in healthcare and coming home and having to shower, that has been a very difficult time for us. And so ultimately what we're discussing is trying to get the repair, which has been repaired, but it's been a very costly incident for us. And so we were told that this would be the avenue to bring that up with the town. And I think we have done our part to try and be as patient and civil as possible. But it has been very difficult for us.
Okay.
It is undeniably, unequivocally clear that the damage was caused by the town project. The plumbers, we have told us this, we have video, we have pictures. We're trying to go through the path of least resistance here. We would like to still remain civil and have relationships with people in town instead of going through it the hard way. So we would just really like for people to do what is right and needed, which would be to reimburse.
Okay. Kent has been updating the board on the ongoing repair. I don't have a lot of details, but Kent, were you provided with the information that they're referencing?
Yes, so Veronica sent the information. We've talked with Veronica and with Les over the last week, and staff was out with the plumbers when they made the repair Saturday. Veronica sent several emails over the weekend, and then staff, both Ryan and myself, are reviewing that, and we'll get it taken care of as
Okay.
best we can. Got to make sure through everything that it's the correct manner. So the staff's reviewing right now, and it'll get taken care of as urgently as possible. We did talk with the plumbers that were involved as well on site. So
Okay,
there'll be more to come. So,
okay,
but the damages that were there, I'm glad that they were fixed. Unfortunately, there was something that on a stub of a line, it's actually on the service line for Veronica and Les's, where the damage that occurred that was corrected on Saturday. So it's been a mess to say it shortly.
So we can finally agree on that, Kent. It is most certainly our line. However, the damage that was incurred was caused by the project. But it is
Well, and
definitely our
that's,
line.
yeah, and that's why we have to review all the information. I can't say that flat out, just everything. We have to review the information, and that's where I think it's going. But I haven't had a chance to review everything with other staff members that are involved with it, and I don't have an immediate response to that.
okay. But there will be follow-up and
Absolutely.
yes,
Absolutely.
so, and please feel free to contact us if something new develops, and we'll just count on getting updates from Kent, and then bring a proposal to the board. Okay? I'm very glad it's fixed now. I'm sorry it took so long to get there, but I'm very glad it's fixed. So.
I realize it's under review, but do we have a timeline, Kent, where you feel that the town will be able to respond to this?
What I told Veronica today on the phone was, I said it would be in a couple days, that they would be completely resolved in one way or the other. And we may have to, stuff that occurred before, not just the actual repair, but other stuff in the house that may end up involved with our insurance, as it usually would. So it's those kind of communications that would need to occur. So.
Okay. All right. So thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Yeah, can I just ask about the project? Is there a timeline on the project in front of or on Brownell?
Yeah, I wish. I've asked again today for an updated schedule as far as when they're going to come in and pave it. What I was told last week, and I think I communicated that earlier, was that it said in 2 weeks they would finish the patching, and then a week and a half after that they would be able to come up and do the full mill and overlay. I was asking for confirmation for that both last week and on. He said he would have it by the end of the week, so I asked again today. I did not get confirmation from that today.
Is that from the contractor? Because it just seems like that whenever we have talked to anybody out there, it's been 2 weeks. I mean, this goes back to October. Right? I'd be okay, 2 weeks, 2 weeks. It's just, I will just express that it has been extremely frustrating for us. Just the basic getting in and out of our property has been a very difficult time for us, dating back to August 9th. I mean, timing of it could not have been worse for us, but again, it's more the culmination of a lot of things that have happened over the past several months, culminating with a drainage problem that ended up with us showering outside. It's just been very, very, very frustrating. And so I'm just wondering personally what the timeline is, because it would be nice to just get this behind us. I
Absolutely. And there's
understand
two
that
things.
this is something that is better for the town. I think that it'll be, once it's done, it'll be nice. It'll be very visually pleasing. However, the fact of the matter for us is that we're living through it, and it's been extremely frustrating. And so I just want to express our concern with that. And again, going back to, I think we've been very, very patient, but going back to October, it's been every 2 weeks. Okay, yeah, we're going to get done by Halloween. We're going to get done by Thanksgiving. We're going to get done by Christmas market. We're going to get, and now it's seeming to have the same pattern of in 2 weeks. And I just, again, we're just kind of frustrated. That's all.
Sure. Actually, if I could interject, I thought there was a time back in the fall when we actually knew that it wasn't going to get finished over the winter. They had lost their window of good weather. They couldn't do any more actual asphalt and patching. So, and I thought that was more like early in November that they decided that, but I could be remembering things wrong.
Yeah, it was in November when they said that
Okay.
they weren't going to finish.
Okay.
As far as in the fall. But in the spring here, and I understand your frustration, Les. I'm frustrated as all get out. I'm not anywhere close to your frustration because of things that have happened at your house. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that I'm as frustrated as well with this contractor to be able to finish. I'm not as frustrated with the paving contractor as I was with the water main contractor, because the water main contractor is the one that caused the problem in front of your house. So the paving contractor, once they're up here, they do go to work and get the job done. But, and I'm just passing along the information that I received. And if I could have different information and more exact information, I would pass it along, but I don't want to give any false information or false hope. And that's why I keep asking for an exact day. And I don't seem to get an answer. And at this point, where's my leverage point to make that happen? I'm getting to that. What's another leverage point? So we're
Well,
close
thanks,
to being
guys. I
done.
know that we are like way beyond our 5 minutes. Thank you for hearing us out. And so I guess we would then expect in 2 days or 3, what do you say, Kent, to hear something definitively one way or the other?
I would hope by, let's just say Friday by the end of the week, and know for absolutely sure. And I'll probably be able to contact you before then.
Okay, thank you guys for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you
for your time.
Thank you.
Sorry about all that.
Yeah. Is anyone else here for audience business? Okay, seeing none, we will move on. The payables that we have to review and approve are from May 8th to May 21st, 2020. Any questions or comments? Mary is here. If nobody has any comments or questions, I would entertain a motion to approve those payables.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the payables from May 8th, 2020 to May 21st, 2020 as presented. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. Next, we have the minutes from our May 12th meeting. It was a regularly scheduled meeting. Any comments or corrections? I had a couple. In roll call, we need to move Rob Connell to the absent category.
Okay.
And then under discussion items, we had added a couple of items on the agenda. We had added discussion of the July 4th celebration, the proposed CARES 2.0 bill. And then under staff report, we had added trash control at Bighorn Crossing. So if those could actually be added to the minutes to reflect that we did actually talk about them, that would be wonderful.
Okay, I'll go ahead and add those. Thank you.
Sure. Anybody have anything else? Would anybody like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the May 12th meeting with those corrections?
Yeah, this is Tim. I'll move that we approve the Board of Selectmen regular meeting minutes for May 12th, 2020 as amended.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Go ahead, Rob.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the May 12th, 2020 regular meeting as amended. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes. First on the agenda, number 1 agenda item is the proposed amendment of the encroachment license at 1108 Main Street. Who would like to kick that off for us?
Police Judge Kelsey and members of the board, this encroachment license was brought up for a little bit of information last time. You had asked to follow the encroachment license procedure as set up by the Board of Selectmen back in '05. And as part of that procedure, it was asked by the Board of Selectmen to have the Planning Commission comment on it. It was brought to their meeting on last Wednesday, which is May 20th. And they discussed it, as well as the property owner was at that meeting, as well as Martin Landers as the planner, contract planner with the town of Georgetown. The original encroachment license for this property at 1108 Main Street was approved in 1999. There was a previous owner of the property at that time who had asked for it to be approved. And it included a certain property that is on Main Street that was encroached on. The applicant has asked for an amendment of that encroachment license and is basically putting a fence on top of the first rock wall. There's 2 rock walls, existing rock walls in front of this property, and they're kind of staggered. And the little fence is on top of the rock wall. We had him go for a DRC application before we realized it was part of an encroachment license. So the Planning Commission had discussed it, and then approved unanimously to recommend to the Board of Selectmen that an amendment of the encroachment license go forward. And that's what came from the Planning Commission. We don't have those minutes for you. They would be draft minutes anyway, for the Planning Commission to approve them, but that was the gist of their concern. The one thing that was brought up at the Planning Commission meeting was that the ability for the town to revoke or redo the encroachment license at any point in the future. And that is already part of the encroachment license agreement, that with 10 days notice, and Jerry could probably bring up the actual section that that's involved with, but the encroachment license, the town can give 10 days notice and then the encroachment license is gone. So that with that caveat, the Planning Commission did not have any concerns about recommending approval of an amendment to the encroachment license. We also asked, as far as the Road and Bridge Department and other departments within the city, if there'd been any problems with this amendment of the encroachment license, and there was no concerns stated. I noticed that the property owner is also on the Zoom call as well, so he may want to say a few words as well on that.
It says Daniel, do you want to unmute yourself, or does Jennifer need to unmute you?
Kent pretty well covered it. Like you said, just a fence on top of the wall. Be really easy to take out if we need to.
And the purpose for the fence was?
Mainly child containment.
All right.
Jerry may have a few words to say too.
Thank you, Kent. Lynette, if you don't mind.
Sure, go ahead.
If the board's inclined to approve, then certainly we'll draft the resolution and a revised encroachment agreement. It will, I'll want to attach to the agreement a little site plan. There's been in the packet, as you see, a design for the fence. So if that's the thing that's being proposed, you want to make sure that that's what gets attached to the license agreement. So 2 years, 5 years from now, you can go back and say, this is what was presented to us and this is what we agreed on. That's pretty easy to do. And the revocation is fine, 10 days notice. The one question I guess I'd ask the board, and it's a policy question, is whether the encroachment license should run with the land. Now, if, for example, if the property owner were to sell the land, does that entitlement continue? Understanding that running with the land and it's your ability to terminate it at any time are separate and independent, and both can be true. So if you say it's okay to run with the land, it does not take away your ability to revoke it as it's owned by this particular applicant or someone that he would later sell to. You should probably have a discussion about that. I understand it's for child containment. That may be true or maybe not for the next owner. But it's, as I say, it's kind of a social policy question that I'm fine with either way that you want to do it. You might want to hear from the owner around that, his plans. That's all I've got.
Okay. It was my understanding that the original encroachment was set up so that it would run with the land. These types of documents are then recorded with the clerk and recorder. And so they do show up in title work if the title insurance company is doing their job correctly. So I don't see any reason why we would want to differentiate this encroachment license amendment from the original. I would think it would be best to have it run with the land rather than with the owner, but that's just my opinion. So I open it up to board discussion. Anybody want to comment on this? John?
I agree with you. I think it saves time in the future. It just goes with the land.
Okay,
I agree.
okay. Paul, Mary, Rob, any comments?
I'm fine with it.
From a real estate standpoint, it makes transactions a little smoother.
Okay. How about you, Tim?
Actually, I agree with you. I think it should run with the land, continue just the way it was. And I did look at the property, and it's actually, you can tell that's what he wants the fence for. He's got a nice little play yard there for children. So I'm all good with this.
Okay,
I'm on the same position as well.
wonderful.
You could see when you drive by, the kids are playing up there, and it's to keep them from falling off.
Sure, sure. Okay. Would any other comments? Otherwise, I would request a motion to direct staff to draft an amendment to the encroachment license for 1108 Main Street to add a fence in the purposes listed within the license and a resolution for board approval.
So moved. This is Tim.
Second,
It's been moved and seconded to direct staff to draft an amendment to the encroachment licenses previously discussed. Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right, thank you, Daniel, for coming to the meeting.
Thank you. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you. All right, next would be an update on the public health emergency measure as it affects various things. So we could start off with the short-term rentals and move on to other things. Kent, do you want to?
Well, I guess regarding the short-term rentals, the governor has extended the safer at home executive order until June 1st. And the short-term rentals are still a part of that. From a statewide perspective, let alone the town's own order that went out regarding short-term rentals. I do get contacted probably every single day by the short-term rental property owners regarding it, but and we have had a couple situations, but they've been quickly taken care of. One that took a little bit longer, but taken care of once we've contacted the owners. But as with all the different things that are happening in different counties and statewide, there's certainly greater expectation by those property owners going forward. That doesn't mean much regarding until the governor changes, and they haven't given an indication other than regarding restaurants, what is changing from his current executive order.
Mhm.
And that's causing for a number of our business, and short-term rentals is another business, but the other businesses, the brick and mortar businesses in town have had some difficulty trying to read the tea leaves as well, as far as what's going to be allowed and what isn't at times as well. But regarding the short-term rentals, I guess that's the current status, is the governor will have to make some changes or allow some changes after June 1st. And then it would be regarding whether the town of Georgetown follows along or sticks with what the current policy is. And I don't know if anyone has any thoughts or comments or complaints regarding that.
where does the county stand right now with the plan that they're putting forward?
They are very close to submitting a request for a variance. Of all the different things, I really haven't heard short-term rentals come up in the discussion, so I don't have that off the top of my head, if that was part of the variance request or not, for the short-term rentals there in the county.
I don't know whether it is or not either. They'll be discussing that at a special meeting on Thursday this week. So
They're looking to get approval to submit the variance on Thursday, so.
And while this moratorium is still there for the short-term rentals, what's the best way for our community to address any issues that they're having? To contact your office, contact town hall? How would you like to see that handled when our residents are seeing or assuming that there's an issue?
Town hall works. It can also be called in if it's on the weekend to dispatch to let the police officers know, and they can gather information. During the times that town hall isn't open, because they may notice it at any time of the day or night. So sometimes there's been situations where it's either family members or the property owners themselves that show up at the residence. So. But if they report it to town hall, then we contact the property owner. And with some of the information, in fact, we're investigating one now that not we, the staff is investigating. The one short-term rental that did not have the proper identification of a local contact, and that may jeopardize their ability to regarding their license. So we'll follow the legal manners regarding how that occurs. So.
okay. Anybody else have comments or concerns about short-term rentals?
Are you guys aware that Summit County was denied for their variance for short-term rentals?
No.
Yep, that just happened on Sunday.
Okay.
So just FYI, the state said they're not ready.
Good to know.
And they had 15 more confirmed cases over the weekend.
Okay. All right.
So can we assume that nothing is going to change until we meet again at our next board meeting? Or is this something that if the state gives approval or the county has included some detail to this, that you're gonna contact us in between?
What would you prefer? My guess is more the question. It can certainly wait until the next board meeting. I'm just saying that the governor's order is not going to end until at least June 1st. And then the submission of the variance request by the county, they won't get a reply for about a week's time frame. So it'll be past June 1st by the time the county, Clear Creek County, gets a reply to their variance request.
And our
So
next meeting will be on the 9th.
9th. That's not too
9th,
far.
I believe. So that's pretty early in the month.
I'm comfortable with that, waiting till the 9th.
Okay. Other thoughts on the subject? Okay. How about next item would be the lake and the uses that might be allowed?
Well, been contacted both by locals and by people that are not local on a regular basis regarding Georgetown Lake. As obviously the weather gets warmer, it's a pretty favorite spot for a lot of folks. The current situation has worked out pretty well, and I'll ask Randy to speak to how the enforcement has occurred at the lake over the last few weekends. But it seems to have worked fairly well. up until this point. Randy, did you have anything to say?
Excuse me, it's the Rona. Yeah, enforcement's been simple. There's people show up, they see it, or they see an officer in the proximity. Regularly, we'll make some runs around the lake or contact some people and just let them know more clearly what the rules are. Haven't really run into a lot of heartache over it. I know the National Forest Service is considering opening their campgrounds in Clear Lake, probably June 2nd.
June what?
That will, June 2nd, June 2.
Okay.
We would not want to do anything before that because that takes some of the pressure off of people wanting to come up here and fish, to be able to have that as an area to go, or other areas that are closed now but should be opening early in June. And that's both in Summit County. I was told, I have no official information, that Dillon Reservoir did open this past weekend. So, and at least when people come up, they're more interested, well, where can we go fish since we're not able to fish here? And that's about what we run into. It hasn't been a problem. Obviously, there are people that are disappointed.
Yes.
There's fishing allowed on the creek, though.
Yes.
Yep.
We were worried for a minute that the creek over by Greenway Park might get a little too busy, but it didn't develop. And anywhere along the creek, unfortunately, along the creek encompasses a lot of private property, or not our problem, but the private property is that. In addition, is access is through county roads, and the county is, to my knowledge, keeping their roads closed until June 15th.
Okay.
So there is fishing on the creek, yes. And we direct people down below the dam, and they're happy with that also.
Okay. So I've had a lot of requests from locals that would like to be able to fish, and obviously it's hard to let locals fish when you would prefer that people were still observing the safer at home, because that still says you're allowed to recreate within 10 miles of your residence, not come to Clear Creek and Georgetown to do your recreation. So I just throw that out there as comments that were given to me, and I'm sharing them. Craig Abrahamson has joined us, and I don't know if you all saw the letter that he emailed to us earlier today, but if it's okay with everybody, I'd like to have him speak to this.
Sure.
Okay.
Thanks, Lynette.
Sure.
I'm going to leave the camera off because, I've been working all day. Thanks for bringing the topic up. What I am hopeful for is that there's a meaningful discussion of the meaningful benefits of keeping the lake closed on this particular topic. The governor's modified his safer at home order effective tomorrow, allowing restaurants to begin dine-in service. It also accepts the requirement or the expectation that people recreate only within 10 miles of their residence, to revise that for the exception being for outdoor recreation. The closure at the lake, in my opinion, only pushes the problem elsewhere, which is common in communities, right? Well, if they're not here, they're not my problem. But the more dispersal we can provide amongst Colorado's residents in terms of their recreational opportunities, the better off everybody is. Secondly, we're not exactly discouraging people from coming into town. You don't have to drive on a county road to come to Georgetown to begin with. Secondly, and this is anecdotally to Randy's comment earlier, people are in fact fishing at Clear Lake. There were, I counted 15 cars actually blocking the parking area, which is closed to Clear Lake last time I was up there. Guanella Pass had over 100 vehicles on it, not one of which was a sheriff's deputy. So the county's road closure is marginally effective in terms of preventing people from coming to and through our community to begin with. And so we have to ask ourselves how effective we're being, whether or not we are in fact affecting the outcome that we desire to affect. To have a closure for the sake of having a closure and making other people's lives easier isn't really good reason. And as we begin to reopen, there's no more appropriate activity than family groups fishing together on Georgetown Lake, family groups walking together on Georgetown Lake, family groups boating on Georgetown Lake. My personal opinion is we should shift our policy from one of enforcement and exclusion to one of monitoring and education. So that's what I'll say about the lake closure.
Thank you, Craig. So, what if we are looking at what the meaningful results are of keeping it closed, I guess I would suggest that it would be easing the burden on law enforcement, our police force. It would also be trying to discourage, but perhaps not very effectively, trying to discourage visitors from the metro area who are just at the ends of their ropes and they need to get out of Dodge and come to the mountains. It's been withheld too long to suit them, and I sympathize, but we don't have the emergency personnel and police to deal with the medical emergencies that can arise from getting into trouble when you're up here recreating. So weighing those two, and just that at this point in time, the commissioners haven't lifted the county road closures that are still in place, and that's to discourage recreation in the backcountry. Yeah, we're not really backcountry, we're pretty accessible, but do we want to follow suit, or do we want to start easing up on these restrictions? The other thing I would note is that the visitor center, it's my understanding, had a soft opening over the weekend, and so there are some restrooms that are available to visitors that haven't been for the past couple of months. Is that correct?
Yes.
They opened on Friday.
Okay.
The other thing I would say regarding the county roads, Lynette, I'm sorry to interrupt just a second, is today at the county commissioner meeting, they asked for something specific on Thursday regarding the county roads. So I don't know if that will change or not before what Randy mentioned regarding June 15th, but there seems to be an awful lot of discussion about it. So.
Okay. I saw a chat comment that Craig has another comment to make.
Yeah, I'm not sure that, with all due respect, that those are truly valid issues. I'm not sure there's any documentation that says or I don't think we can demonstrate that we don't have the emergency medical ability to deal with incidents on the lake. I would argue that there are more medical emergencies on the lake in the wintertime than there have ever been in the summertime. And that's with some level of personal experience. So yeah, but again, you know where I stand on it, so I'll leave you guys to your discussion.
Right.
Thank you.
Can I ask a quick question, just a slight turn here? Some of our stores have reopened in town on 6th Street. Some have not. Is that, in my ignorance, is that personal choice on their part? I don't know, if business promotions are they kind of rolling out and opening? I mean, if the town is open and the restaurants are opening, why doesn't that include the lake? I know it's two different places, but either we're open or we're not.
And I would say regarding the choice by each individual business, whether they open or not, is more up to the business and make sure that they're following county and state regulations. The state gave the go-ahead regarding retail that they could open if they followed certain guidelines. Some businesses have opened, some have chose not to. Some are waiting until, what I've heard, this is secondhand information, but until if the train is allowed to operate. What he was looking towards was May 29th, but then there's been a lot of discussion. Did the governor include that as part of his exemption for recreation on the order? So there's a little bit of confusion regarding that. So some of the businesses are waiting for if the train's going to be operating or not, and when is it going to be operating. But there's nothing from the town that has prohibited them from operating. It's all according to state or county public health orders. So, but the point is well taken. So,
yeah,
I'd like to jump in here too. This is Tim, and I don't see any reason why the lake can't be open for fishing. I see no reason whatsoever to keep that closed. I went up Guanella Pass and I experienced the same thing that Craig was saying. There was hundreds of cars on the road going up to Naylor. There was the parking area up in Naylor was full. There wasn't any more room for people to park up there. So I question the county's ability to actually close the road because there wasn't any deputies or anybody patrolling that at all. I also went up 103 to Echo Lake, and there was hundreds of people up there using the Chicago Lake Trail. So people are actually looking for places that they can go and just do some outdoor recreation. And I really see no reason why we couldn't allow them to fish on Georgetown Lake. I just don't see that at all.
Okay. If we were to reopen the lake for fishing, what kind of signage would be recommended?
something that would enunciate or provide direction regarding the state's guidelines and the CDPHE's public health orders regarding outdoor recreation.
Okay.
It needs to still occur within these parameters.
I think you definitely want to put up no camping signs too, so they're not staying overnight in the parking area.
Okay. How do you have any idea how long it takes to order those kinds of signs and get them posted?
Well, the current signs, go ahead, Randy. I think the current signs
I was going to interject that we already have posted signs that prohibiting fires, prohibiting the alcohol, and prohibiting camping. And it's always been a minor issue that we have to address, but we're able to control the camping issue, the factor there.
Okay. I was thinking more on the, in terms of, I mean, how, other than mentioning the, whatever the current public health orders and governor's orders for outdoor recreation are, and maybe that's as specific as we want to get if we're starting to order more permanent signage that could end up being up for quite a long time.
Do we want to
I'm
open
not
it
sure
for
what the
fish?
restrictions. I'm sorry, go ahead, Mary.
Do we want to open it just for fishing by the shore and not open it up to boating or, you
I
know,
believe if we open it, we just open it
Open it?
entirely.
okay, open the dam.
All they can run out there is paddle boats and canoes anyway.
Kayaks, yeah.
And,
Well,
and their belly floats, whatever they call those inner tube things.
Right, I was just addressing the extra concern about emergency personnel and responses. I think far less people fall in from the shoreline than somebody out on the boat who dunks.
We already
We
have,
just wait to see what happens.
yeah, but we already have permanent signs down there regarding flotation devices and boating. So if they choose to do any kind of kayaking, canoeing, whatever out there, they're supposed to have what's required. So
No barking.
Could we consider, once the safer at home is lifted June 1st, if that's the assumption that we're going under, that's when, that's our date on that?
Very well could be, or whatever modification comes with it, you know. Because I think the majority of the order is going to stay in place, but then the exceptions that are going to come about is the recreate within 10 miles and the restaurants part.
okay. So if we just tied our reopening of the lake to other activities, if we tied that to whatever modifications are made to the governor's orders or the public health orders, would that be agreeable to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't see why we wouldn't open it for this coming weekend. That's honestly. I don't think
well,
the governor's-
considering the traffic we had last weekend, there are people who aren't going to wait until June 1st. So,
Well, June 1st is Monday, and then it'll take a little bit of work to get and see where their timing regarding the fence part of it on the lake. But as far as allowing fishing, I don't think that would be difficult to get done.
you mean prior to the weekend? Is that what you're
Right.
saying, Kent?
Yeah.
Okay,
Just
As long
the
as
ropes
it meets all the criteria.
yes, Tim,
Pardon?
did you,
Oh, I just said it's a matter of taking down some ropes and a little bit of fencing is all.
We could leave the fence up and just open up the parking lot so people park where they're supposed to.
Well, I guess that could be done too.
make an entrance?
But it'd also help with the brewery to keep people from parking on that side of the road if the parking was open on the north side.
The parking can be open. There is a gate built into the fence off of Argentine Street.
Yeah.
Okay,
And I think we're going to look into how the fencing, where we're at with that, to see if it should remain in case a month from now, there's a significant change rather than have them have to come out and reset it. But that's going to probably depend well on what they're charging us regularly, how the charging is for the fence.
That makes sense if we can open it. If we do decide to open it, open the lake, that we could open a part for the parking.
Okay, yeah, I like that idea too. So do you need a motion from us, Kent, to kind of solidify how we're feeling on this, or?
I would ask the town attorney if it really needs a motion, or is it just consensus to direct staff to regarding the order that was put out by me?
Yeah, I think just direction to staff is fine
Okay.
at this level. Yeah.
So what I am hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, let me state what I think the consensus is, and then we can go around and confirm that individually. So the consensus would be to open up the parking areas in time for fishing and additional recreation to take place at the lake in time to have that occurring this coming weekend. And to also follow public health order and the governor's amending the safer at home provisions. Is that correct? I'm seeing nods. How about you, Tim? I can't see a nod.
I'm hiding back here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that sounds good. I just would like to see the lake open up.
Okay.
And
So-
obviously everybody has to follow the governor's executive order, so.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much. Any comments other than what Mary's already said about the business and restaurant openings, concerns?
Have,
The only, I'm sorry, I interrupted somebody. The only thing that I was thinking is, how do we, how can we be open to some of the restaurants or whatever, if they need to be able to move their liquor license out to a fenced off little patio area outside? Are we going to be able to do that for them?
That sounds like a question for Jerry, and he's prepared to answer.
Thanks, Tim. That question is on everyone's mind around the state. And the Liquor Enforcement Division has promulgated an emergency rule to allow for temporary modifications of premises. Those modifications still have to be approved by the state, and they get approved locally, but they've put together kind of an accelerated process that you use the same forms, but they'll process them simultaneously with the local processing. So that saves some time. The regulations generally prohibit service on sidewalks, but they will allow that. The only constraint is that you still have to respect ADA. So you can't put, tables and chairs on the sidewalk such that you no longer have an ADA compliant sidewalk. And it's dangerous for people to, walk on the sidewalk. That's just a safety issue you'd have no matter if it were a liquor license operating on the sidewalk, or if it were just an encroachment license. You just did one for a retail store that's not selling liquor. We're seeing a lot of those kinds of applications as well around the state, and that's something the town's fully in control of. For liquor, they need to go through this expedited process, but it's pretty well known. I was reading all the stuff just yesterday on that, actually. And we can help kind of guide them through for the ones that want to serve liquor. a larger question, which you didn't ask, but I assume you want to talk about at some point, is closing the street to some extent or another. And you can do that too. And the Liquor Enforcement Division will allow that, but of course, you can't have traffic on the street. You have to have fully closed it. But the Liquor Enforcement Division sees alcohol and other alcohol sales in the street really no differently than alcohol sales on the sidewalk. Got to get a temporary modification of premises, got to be safe for ADA. We'll process an expedited process for you, and it's not a permanent modification, which you see a good example, 16th Street Mall in Denver. Those are permanent modifications. Those bars and restaurants that have liquor sales out on the sidewalk, but they have to renew them every year, just like renewing a liquor license. For this kind of temporary deal, it's faster. So that's kind of the landscape that's really available. There's a lot of good guidance out there, and it would not be inappropriate for the town, if you're interested in encouraging that, to reach out to the business owners and say, here are the procedures. If you're interested in operating in the street, or in the sidewalk, we're open to getting an application from you, assuming that it can be done safely. So that's what's available.
Okay. Do we already have that application process set up? No?
Not really. It's the temporary rules say, hey, if you want to do this temporary modification in the sidewalk, use the same form as you do for a permanent modification, says this little rule. And you only have to fill out sections 1, 3, and 5. Okay. And the fee is only this, and we can process it simultaneously. So, and you do need barriers, but they have communicated they're not going to be real picky about what the barriers, are going to be, so long as they function.
Okay.
So it's the same form, kind of, but kind of the same form of light, if you will. Okay. And so policy choice, I think, for the board is, somebody could come in tomorrow with an application and say, hi, I want to do this. They're grown-ups, and they have the right, they're the licensee, they got the right to ask. But the policy call for the board, I think, would be, does the board want to reach out at all to the business community and say, this temporary emergency rule on liquor is in place, and we want to be mindful of public safety, but if you want to access it, we'll take a look at it. And similarly to other retail businesses that don't serve alcohol, you can say, we have an encroachment license procedure, just went through it. And if you're interested in doing more retail out on the sidewalk, that procedure is available to you. For that, any encroachment license would have to be temporary, wouldn't be anything like the license you just granted. It would be temporary, to be a 3-month thing, and revocable on specific uses. But that's a tool that you've got available to assist the business community.
Okay. Wonderful. Thank you, Jerry.
Yep.
Hi, John. You have your hand up.
Kent, has there been any request for Main Street to be closed by the businesses that that you're working on, or
had this?
You mean 6th Street?
6th Street, yeah.
I've had discussion with one business owner. Was having discussion with another business owner, and actually had with the owners of Lucha's. They started asking various questions on different manners or different routes. I talked with Lynette about it briefly, and need to talk with Jerry about it, because it started talking about the food truck ordinance and whether it could work on their property that's owned by the same owner behind that restaurant in that parking lot, or they were actually trying to work out for a commercial kitchen at another location, and then bring it there and then be able to serve it off the food truck. There was all those type of questions regarding Lucha's because of their unique situation. but I've had discussion with a couple other restaurateurs, one pretty seriously about modification of premise. The liquor part of that would be part of it, but they have to work out with the neighboring property owner regarding modification of premise anyway. And it wouldn't fit directly onto the street. And I've been getting different answers regarding 6th Street in general. Some are in favor and some are definitely not in favor of closing any part of 6th Street, which you would expect in some ways, even to try it out over the summer. So, and I have not contacted every business or had someone been able to, not just me, but someone able to contact all the business owners. So.
I did have some comments that were given to me yesterday by Tracy Troya. And she said she had not brought this up to Promotions Commission because it just occurred to her. But in imagining when the train opens and people go up and they have their train ride and they're coming back down into town from the train, and if they were to hit a roadblock that was blocking off portions of 6th Street so that they couldn't drive down 6th Street and at least observe that businesses were open, and maybe we should go ahead and park the car and get out and wander around and maybe try and find a restaurant. Her fear is that they would turn left and head straight back to Denver. It would be easier than, having them circle around and have to park in order to wander around. That's kind of what the mentality quite often is. They'll stand at a street corner and look up a block and say, gosh, there's nothing up there, when there's signs for 4 businesses hanging out into the street. They just, they don't see it. And so her fear was that it would encourage people to not even stop in town.
And I can see that. So
Can I say one more thing about that? If it has a mall atmosphere and there's people walking around, that would somewhat make people inclined to also join in with that. So I'm not necessarily going along with the whole thing about chasing everybody around by closing the street. Yeah, if there was a road closed sign and there was, trenches or something, I'd say people would probably feel differently about it. But, we'd have picnic tables and hopefully lights and whatnot. And it would seem inviting, actually. So it might actually have the exact opposite effect.
It could. Okay. Yes, Mary.
Again, can't we, if that's one of the situations or the problems that we are anticipating, if we can, post some nice, attractive signs, not the hand painted ones, but, get some decent signs that even come down Loop Drive so that people know that, welcome to our pedestrian mall, park, whatever kind of thing. I know some people don't read the signs. I get that. They're trying to find their way, but the more information we can give them, and maybe even the railroad would be open to us having some signs in their parking lot. This is going to be a summer-long thing. So if we're opening up or, making 6th Street a pedestrian mall, it's not just for a couple of weeks.
Right. Okay.
Thanks.
Anybody else have a comment?
So are we looking to direct staff to just move forward then if there's a kind of a need? I don't know if it's a need or whatnot, but if it seems like it's a good thing, at least they have the board behind them in pursuing it.
there's some details to be worked out, but yeah, it would be good to know whether the board's generally in favor or generally not in favor of pursuing it. So.
Lynette,
Yes.
board might want to break that direction to staff into a couple pieces.
Okay.
You know, the easier ones obviously are direct staff to reach out to liquor license business owners and make them aware of the temporary emergency rule about modification of premises.
Okay.
That's available to them. Here's a copy of the form. Door number 2, reach out to non-liquor license businesses, or really everybody, and say we also have an encroachment process that would allow retail sales on the sidewalk. And here's that process. And, you know, we've got the procedures that we followed for the item earlier. Then a third direction on opening the street. And this is for the board policy debate, but it occurs to me you might, for that, can't see objections to the business owners for the first 2 I mentioned. But for closing the street, you might want to take the temperature of businesses up and down 6th Street. So you kind of see what the affected group out there, how they're going to feel about that. Because the other ones are individual. Doesn't hurt me if you go out there and go onto the sidewalk, it's fine. But if the road is changed, that affects me whether or not I wanted it. So in terms of direction, you might give direction on the first 2, probably to encourage, and the second one maybe to acquire some information. I don't know how Kent feels about that assignment that I just invented for him. Sorry.
Well, I think there needs to be communication, definitely. I do think there's one connection between the first 2 and the third. Is one of the reasons to close the street is in order to create more room so that people can distance from each other. And with more stuff on the sidewalk, that obviously becomes difficult. So
that's exactly right. And frankly, if you have to still comply with ADA, those sidewalks really aren't all that big. And if you're going to really put stuff on the sidewalk, you're going to need the whole sidewalk. And then we run into that problem. You'd have to block some lanes in the street.
Yes, Tim?
This is Tim. Yeah, one question I would have is, are we going to have enough parking for the people that would park on the street for those additional vehicles?
yeah, that's a question because it's about 10 to 12 spaces total between the 2.5 blocks of parking that's available, 2 blocks of parking that's available. So
yeah,
there really isn't a parking space allowed except for police officers up here in the town hall block on the street. So
yeah. So I think 12 spaces. Yeah, I mean that pushes what 12 cars into, you know, down Rose Street or into neighborhoods. I think that the loss of those parking places isn't going to be a really critical hardship.
okay. The other thing I was thinking too is on the weekend, they could always use the county parking lot too.
Right.
Which they generally do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of parking right behind Lucha's, you know, right behind the Shop International. That lot back there is, I mean, that's a significant lot.
It is, but isn't that private?
All of those spaces are privately owned. If they, I mean, they don't generally put any restrictions on them. They allow people to park there as needed, except for sometimes at festival times. But they are all privately owned. It's not public parking. So. I don't know if everybody saw this. Craig has has given us a comment that Kent could be delegated to review and approve temporary encroachment licenses for sidewalks and associated modifications of premises to the, under the emergency order. And he says you can park in both of my private vacant lots. So.
Awesome.
I would
That
like
would-
to see us extend that to Kent. I would hate for our businesses to be ready to open and we're still delaying their expansion until our next meeting in that sense. You know, if they're ready to go and they want to do sidewalk or street sales, you know, and they've checked all the boxes, Kent understands the parameters of what we're discussing here.
Okay. Where is?
I think we lost Kent.
Yeah. And Jennifer.
And Jennifer. Yeah, we might
Somebody
want
was,
to
somebody was
grab
adding
her.
too many jobs to them.
What
Good,
did you
let's
say?
direct him to do lots of stuff then.
The perfect time to do it.
Yes,
Yeah,
while you were out.
volunteers for all kinds of stuff.
So is everybody in agreement that that kind of authority should be delegated to Kent? I feel comfortable doing that for the
Yeah.
temporary encroachments and temporary liquor license adjustments.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
just so I'm clear, are we talking beyond 6th Street? Are we talking where or are we going to talk about this separately? Like the Cabin Creek Brewery parking lot, Cooper's parking lot, A&K's, Whistle Stop. Are we encompassing that all into this or is that a separate discussion? I mean, I'm fine if it goes with this so that they can expand too. I'm just curious.
Well, and I have no objection to people expanding somewhat into their parking lots, but if they have parking lots and they fill them up with tables, where there are people going to park it, you know, I'm not really in favor of devoting more than a portion of their existing parking if they've got it adjacent to their premises to expansion of restaurant serving areas.
But that's no
Lynette,
that's no
Kent
different than
just called
parking
me.
on 6th Street.
Yes, Jerry.
I'm sorry, Kent just called me. He said the computer, you know, went down, they're restarting it.
Okay.
And I told him, you better hurry up, you're getting a lot of assignments. We should see him soon. I'm sorry, Mary.
Yeah.
But again, if we're waiving, you know, the governor is directing all the communities. This isn't just Georgetown. People are going to know that the streets are open for restaurants and shopping if everyone is into that piece. So if there's street parking or parking around the corner for some of these restaurants, and specifically I'm talking the restaurants because I don't think there's that many retail outside of 6th Street there. And I apologize if I'm missing someone. For them to be able to expand and to recover some of their space so that they have more than just the 50% or the 50 people. And if, you know, and I'll use Cabin Creek because they're easy and they're in my neighborhood. You know, if their customers can park across the street by the lake, then however many seating that they have been able to add in their parking lot. Same with Cooper's. You know, when the visitor center is closed, people can walk across the street there, or they can park on Argentine, or the same with Whistle Stop and the other restaurants down that way. I don't think we should be limiting their parking lots any more than we're eliminating the 6th Street parking.
No, I think they need to give that plan to Kent. They can figure that out. But I guess I just assumed that we were talking about everybody and not just 6th Street. So I thought we were also going to include Cooper's and Clear Creek or Cabin Creek Brewing and, you know, everybody.
In the encroachment, the temporary encroachments, yes, everybody. And in the liquor license, premise alteration, yes. All the restaurants that serve liquor. But, I mean, so Sixth Street pedestrian walkway kind of is a side issue that allows a little bit more encroachment into sidewalks if we decide that we want to allow closure of however many blocks of Sixth Street. So, does that make sense?
Yeah. Should we be waiting for Jennifer to come back, or have we lost our recording too?
I think that
That's a good
Zoom meeting function records automatically. So I think we are being.
And
recorded.
we're still live streaming, so I think she gets recording there.
Okay, good.
Yeah. I can text Kent and suggest to him that if he wants, he could call in on the call-in. Pardon me, the call-in number at least. If he's having trouble getting video.
Okay.
Do that.
Okay. So just to establish the baseline, I'm just trying to figure out if everybody was in consensus on what I had previously stated, that Kent is allowed to do the temporary encroachment licensing for businesses to be out on the sidewalks, and also the temporary premises alterations for liquor sales. And then are we mostly in favor of proceeding with blocking off, or at least exploring how it would be done, when it could start, blocking off portions of Sixth Street to be pedestrian only?
I think that Kent should take the temperature of the business owners on 6th first about
Okay.
closing. I don't think we should just do it.
Right.
No.
Okay. So, okay, that makes sense. Because I know not all of the businesses have had a chance to weigh in and even, figure out what pros and what cons go along with it. So, yeah. Is that agreeable to everyone?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Great. Okay. Any other emergency measures that you want to discuss?
Not for me.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay. I guess next on the agenda was I just wanted to do a couple of public acknowledgements, thank yous. First of all, when the Heritage Center has been doing virtual concerts on, every 2 weeks, they have designated those have been, the tickets are donation based, and a portion of those donations they designated to go to first responders. And the first responders that they chose were the Georgetown Police Department. So as of the concert, not the last concert that they had, which was about the 17th, I think, but the previous concerts, they had collected somewhere in the neighborhood of $500 and some dollars it was being donated to the Georgetown Police Department. So I just wanted to give a public thank you and acknowledge their generosity. The other one was just a public thank you for the fire authority for responding so quickly and doing such a great job of containing the fire at Luch's. It could have been so much worse, and they did a great job, and I just wanted to say thanks. And then it occurred to me that we had a couple of other thank yous, and these are going to be ongoing, but there's been a lot of food distribution going on, and some of the groups, I know there are more groups that are involved that I'm not aware of, but the Veterans Coalition is heading up some of that, and the Rotary Club has been very, very involved in helping get that distribution going here in Georgetown at the community center, and the library has also helped, and the local food bank. If anybody else knows of other organizations that I'm missing, please speak up. But I wanted to publicly acknowledge those.
Can I
Okay.
just jump back in here for a second
Yes,
on our
sure.
previous issue? I don't know if
Oh.
everyone's been able to read under your Q&A on Zoom. Can we acknowledge what Amanda Cooper has sent in to us?
Oh, I didn't see that. Okay.
She just asks, I would respectfully request that all stakeholders are allowed to apply for encroachments. We have been through a very long 10 weeks. It would enhance social distancing and allow us to maximize our revenue loss.
Oh.
I think we addressed that, but I think that should be made a part of the record since we're dealing with technical issues
Well,
right now.
Okay. I guess my assumption was that when the the outreach to the businesses, it would be to all businesses and they would all be allowed to apply. Sure. Yes. Okay. So Kent's not back yet.
So does somebody need to respond to about Cooper's? Amanda?
I think she's listening to us. I just don't
Okay.
think she has access to speak
Okay.
because
Okay,
of the
I'm,
technical issues.
yeah, all of a sudden the computer decided to restart. Sorry, guys.
Sorry. Yeah. No,
Let me get
Amanda.
Kent back on here. Hold on.
Okay.
Let me
Amanda
get it. I'm
just.
getting it. Hold on.
Yes.
I see
Amanda
her.
just.
I see her.
Okay, so
Sorry.
Amanda's good.
I know. I was just going to say that. In case anybody didn't know, she said she's good.
Kent tells me that he can hear you.
Okay.
He's trying to get promoted so that he can talk to you.
All right.
At least he heard us.
Are you on the phone, Kent?
Oh, I guess I've been unmuted, so I've been promoted
Okay.
by Jennifer. So
Yeah, very
Okay,
good.
sorry.
Awesome.
I don't know.
Welcome back.
then I'm glad to be back.
Okay.
You sound great.
We got a lot of work for you.
Okay. We've been continuing just so that you and Jennifer know, and hopefully you've got access to the recording elsewhere. So
Yeah, we do. We have it
okay,
recorded.
wonderful, wonderful. So we have moved on. We did the thank yous, and we are at staff reports. So water and sewer billing, late fees and shutoffs would be the next item on the agenda.
The one thing, and now that I started throwing things everywhere, trying to find certain things, Mary, if she's still on, could the procedure that we had for the last couple months, where it was the not charging late fees or not conducting shutoffs, is it's really involving the same folks, and it's not much different from normal. It
Okay.
has provided some relief, but it hasn't, it's not providing that much difference in percentage. So, and she gave me a little worksheet, which I just found, stating that as of April 30th, and she still has, there's the number of the percentage of the number of delinquent accounts is about 15% from the April 30th billing. As of May 26th, which they still have a couple days to pay, so that's not that much different right now. I mean, it's 41% of accounts would be delinquent if we shut it, or if we said it was late or delinquent as of the end of today's business. But there's an awful lot of folks that pay the last 3 days.
Okay.
So it hasn't actually, from what Mary states, it's not that much different from normal business. And we might make a distinction between commercial and residential. I don't know regarding those things, but the percentage and the people who are included in the delinquent accounts, it's similar folks as to what was happening before we made the adjustment to allow no late fees and no shutoffs. And at some point here, we're going to have to change our policy back to normal. And I don't know if Mary is still on the call.
Yeah.
And if you
Anything
wanted
to add,
say
Mary?
anything else.
Well, it just looking at it's not actually from March to April, our collection numbers were better than they normally are. So it's the same accounts that are delinquent. Although, like Kent said, that we still have 3-4 days before the due date for water bills. So, and I'd say at least 25% of the payments do come in that last week. So I don't know. I just think that we're spinning wheels, not charging the late charges and holding off on shutoffs. I mean, they can always call. I mean, we always work with people if there's circumstances that are out of their control, but I don't know. I just think that maybe it's not doing what was anticipated.
Okay. Now, keep in mind that the billing that will go out after the 1st of June will have that discount on it that we
Yes.
approved last time. So just tossing that out there. How much would we have collected in late fees during this time that we've been waiving them? Do you have any feel for that?
Not without being in front of my computer.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
And how many would we be actually going after to do shutoffs on? How many accounts?
If we had not done this,
Correct. If we
probably notice wise, there would probably be, I would estimate 10 to 15 notices going out, with, if it followed suit how it normally does, with none being shut off.
Okay.
Because they all would pay.
Okay. I don't know if that sways anybody in any one direction or the other, but I was curious about those numbers. So what do we think? Is it time to stop? Do we want to do it one more month? Because, as far as the businesses go, I don't know if there's a significant difference. If these are all the same accounts that normally struggle to pay on time, and not necessarily we aren't necessarily giving a break to closed restaurants, say, by waiving late fees. So how does everybody feel about this?
I think as we get back going, we should continue to give another month's extension.
I agree. Keep going.
People will be back on, maybe more people will be back on their feet, and if they don't have to worry about their water bill and a couple extra dollars in a charge for a late fee, you know, let them kind of juggle with those funds.
Okay.
But I would like to know what we've, you know, what those statistics are, what those numbers are, as to how many and how much money, and, you know, kind of stuff like that.
Well, no, I mean, normally on any given month, it's 9 to 10,000. Or I'm sorry, not every month. I'm sorry. So it's probably 4,000 a month in late fees.
Really? 4,000?
A lot of.
Yeah, from the last report that we did charge them, I believe that's what it was. I'm just going by memory.
Okay, okay.
Is that just the late fee, or is that the water plus the late fee?
No, that's just the late fees.
Wow.
I'll double check tomorrow on the last month that we did charge them, because I'm just going off my feeble mind right now. But and I will email you all that amount.
Yeah, that'd be great.
How much is the late fee?
It's 5% of the unpaid balance.
Okay.
Wow.
Because if it's $10 an account, that's 400 accounts.
Well,
Well,
regardless of that, I still think we should waive it for another month.
I would agree with that. I think showing some compassion right now is probably a good thing. And, you know, it's just, I don't know, it just seems like the right thing to do for, you know, at least another month.
Okay, I'm seeing nods.
You can't see mine, but I'm agreeing with Mary.
Okay, very good. And you too, Keith?
Is he asleep?
No,
He
he's
says
not
yes.
asleep. He's trying to unmute.
I'm thinking if a whole lot of this is people that are always delinquent and not necessarily affected by the plague, maybe we look into not waiving their late fee. If people are affected by the pandemic, certainly waive theirs. But how do you separate it?
Yeah, that would be tough. It seemed very subjective to me. So I guess I'd prefer to do one more month, and hopefully people are back on their feet in better stance. And so, and it sounded like there was a consensus for that. So, okay. And then last but not least, we have the, well, it's not really last, there are a couple of other things. Copier lease agreement. Kent sent that agenda item out separately, or Jennifer did for Kent.
It's ends up to be less price, less cost per copy, even with they do it a little bit differently with in the current lease, it's 5,000 copies included in it, but it's still more expensive than 5,000 copies under the new proposed lease. It ends up a couple dollars cheaper at $188 a month instead of $191 as far as the black and whites only. Then there's a certain charge per color, which is less as well. Both the incremental rates for both the black and white and color go down. And our average usage is about 3,200 copies a month for the last 3 months. For the last year, it was in the 4,000s, around 4,700, 4,800, I believe. So it's getting close to that 5,000. But even if it does, it is less. And even with the, and then if we have fewer copies, it is significantly less. Well, not significantly, it's $15 to $20 less. But.
What do you need from us?
It was just information really
Okay.
regarding the lease, copy or lease agreement.
Okay, sounds good. So I wanted to throw out a couple of things. There is a benefit that's being organized for Lucha Cantina. It's going to occur on the 30th of May, and you probably will see flyers. I am hoping that they got all the details cleared with you, Kent, before they started putting up the flyers.
Yeah, there were some rumors going around that was going to involve liquor to go as well, which was not true. So all of a sudden it became a kegger at Strauss Park, but that was not the case. And
too bad.
And there will be encouragement, and there might be barricades put up as well to prevent people from congregating in Strauss Park in order to have a party. But other than that, we're good to have them distribute from Strauss Park.
Okay. And just to let you all know, the Memorial Day celebration that we held at Library Park yesterday at noon, we couldn't have asked for better distancing, just voluntary. The crowd kept their distances, and it was a really nice ceremony. There was a very nice speech by Lieutenant Colonel Tina, no, what was her last name? I can't remember.
Matthew.
Tina Matthews, very nice. And Pastor Bill Robertson participated. Norma played beautifully as always. And Pam McCoy played taps. So very, very nice. And I was so pleased at the voluntary distancing. It was wonderful. Thanks, Jen, for all the work you did. And thank you to Carolyn Hone for all the work she did. It really went well. So, and did you want to talk at all about what's being proposed for food truck for Lucha, Kent, or is that not really ready for public discussion?
Well, it's just to plant the seed as far as, and Jerry had brought up when I initially brought it up to him as a possibility. Our food truck ordinance is very limited. It is very limited in number of days and how it occurs and who approves it. And that's to protect the restaurants in town, obviously, the brick and mortar restaurants. And we've had some discussion of food trucks over the last couple of years in general here when it has been brought up. This situation is a little bit different with the Luchas, and they have either obtained or have access to a food truck and would like to operate that food truck. They've also inquired about operating a commercial kitchen in town so that they would really only be serving out of the food truck. And but then questions come up whether, well, why can't they just use the commercial kitchen place as their base of operation? But having a food truck, if it was signed appropriately, allow them to keep their brand and keep their location close to downtown, keep another entity, since we do have a couple holes in downtown to begin with. But Jerry had brought up the idea that it could be possibly done under the executive order type situation, since it is a temporary situation. It's not a permanent situation, but it's a longer term temporary situation. So, but that may not be the best way to go about it. And there's still other questions about whether they could operate in other places, other spaces. So I
think that's I gotta say, with what we've just experienced, this town really ought to be as dynamic as possible. I don't think that really, the restrictions that we put on the, obviously there's, I don't want to make law enforcement's job harder, but boy, I'll tell you, we really ought to be a little bit less restrictive on when it comes to ideas that might, bounce this town back. That I think we ought to let food trucks, operate. I think we ought to this is a time to throw spaghetti at the wall and see what sticks.
Okay. Other thoughts?
No, I agree with that. I think that, it's different time. So, let the administrator kind of figure it out, see what makes sense.
Okay. Well, I hope it'll continue to get discussed and you'll bring back any proposals that need board action in order to make them work. But I'm definitely in favor of, as Rob said, being dynamic and trying to help get the economy going. And as long as what we propose is not in competition with and taking business away from the brick and mortar, I'm good with that. So.
Yeah, I just don't think that, I don't think if people want to go into a restaurant and sit down and be served, they're not going to go to a food truck. But if they want a quick bite to eat, they're going to go to a food truck instead of a restaurant where they don't have an hour. There's always that couple that sits down at Lucha's, and believe me, I've served them, that say, oh, we have a train leaving in 15 minutes. What can you get that's quick? Water, a napkin, But what I'm just trying to say is that food trucks do have their place. I don't think it would, it would detract from the traffic that a restaurant might get.
So are you suggesting we do a temporary revision to our food truck regulations?
I think so.
Okay, I was only thinking in terms of giving Lucha's an opportunity to be creative about how they operate, since they don't. So whatever.
I've seen situations where breweries have these like enclosed areas where they let a different food truck come in for 3 days or 5 days. We can be creative with that process. I just don't want to be restrictive when it comes to letting people operate a business, and especially if they're trying to bounce back from the loss. And I mean, nobody could ever mirror the loss that Luch has got, but there's a lot of other retailers that have probably really taken it in the seat. And, not a lot of the government checks have really helped them. I just think we ought to be more dynamic in terms of our restrictions rather than conservative.
Yeah, this is Tim. I wanted to jump in here. I think that if we're going to look at letting Lucha's do a food truck, we need to allow or maybe look at revising the food truck ordinance, because there's people in town that have also tried to do a food truck in town, that have been, you know, they had to follow the strict, overly strict guidelines of our ordinance. And we can't just allow Lucha to do it because they're Lucha, you know. I don't know. I just don't think that's right.
I think if you're gonna do it for one, you ought to do it for all. But there is a way you can do it, you know, constructively.
What do you think, John?
Well, you know, this is a planning department sort of kind of generated document, and maybe now they need to look at it again.
I would also like some feedback from Promotions Commission on, you know, what they think the impact might be doing a specific one to benefit Lucha, or doing a general one that would allow more frequent operation of food trucks in town.
You'd like that to bring it up with our promotions, then you'd like it on the agenda?
Both Planning Commission and Promotions, I think, should weigh in.
That makes sense.
I think the regulation is more generated by promotions than planning, but yes.
Okay.
Yeah, tell the promotions people to ask Willie Nelson if he knows that the ramp is down. And maybe he might want to come and do a benefit show, and we'll raise millions. Imagine the musicians that have filed through that bar. If they found out that we were doing a benefit concert, I wonder how many of them would show up.
There you go.
That's not a bad idea. But that'd be a business promotion idea, I think.
Well, the last time I saw John McEwen, he did more talking than singing. So maybe something a little more, you know.
All right. Any other thoughts on food trucks? Are we moving on?
Yes, let's move on.
Okay. Anything else that anybody wants to bring up? Concerns? Yes, Mary.
Kent, you may be able to answer this. I noticed that on Argentine, the Great Divide Nursery, apparently they've resolved their building issues and we've got a new business starting up in town soon. What's the deal with that?
Not entirely. I got some more to go. So we're trying to get that figured out today, actually. So.
Because I didn't see anything on any of the, or maybe I overlooked something on one of the DRC agendas or planning agendas, so.
No, it's all with building inspection and building plan review.
Okay.
Yeah, they're done with DRC and those type of things, but they Safe Built and Great American Nursery, whatever they're going to be called. I don't know what they're going to be called, but they need to come to.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Is that it for everybody? All right. Would someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make that motion.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Was there a second that I
second it. If you got the first, I got the second.
Okay. And then Tim got the third. All right. So it's been moved and seconded to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Didn't think so. Thank you all for your attention and wonderful comments. And we'll see you in a couple weeks.
Thank you, Lynette. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Thank you, the rest of everybody.
Bye, everybody.